Okay, so for some reason I cannot get my screen to work. So I'm here. I promise. This is my real voice. I am really here. So today's our last day of going through and writing our body paragraphs. When I am back with you on Monday, we will go over all of these different ones that we've gone through. So the introduction, the body number 1, and then today's body number 2. Remember, you don't have school tomorrow, so that's why I say see you Monday. Well, I also see you Monday because, jury duty. Okay, so again, I want to say thank you for those of you that are being your best selves and doing what's right when you are with a substitute. Keep doing what you're doing. If you are not being your best self and you are not doing what I would ask of you and would expect from you, then you still have time to turn it around. You still have time to, make amends and apologize for any of your bad behavior. Just as a little PSA. You can always apologize. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to write our conclusion. We are going to write our body paragraph number 2. And this is going to be pretty easy. It's not as long as body number 1, so it may not take you as long to write. And a lot of this, if you did the You versus Lizzie PowerPoint, a lot of you have already done this. And it's just going to be putting, some extra flair. So, the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to start with our topic sentence. Make sure that you begin with a transition word. I would try to, don't use second or next or anything like that because that just isn't really going to flow very well. I would use something along the lines of in contrast or in the opposition or opposed to. One of those 3 would work really well. I used additionally in my example. You are welcome to use additionally as well. What you're going to be doing in this paragraph is identifying that there are some people that don't agree with you. There are some people that think that Lizzie Borden is innocent of the crime. Or, in contrast, there are some people that believe that she's guilty. And this is where you're going to identify, yeah, there are people that don't agree with me, but here's why they're wrong and I'm right. That's what the whole objective of this paragraph is to really identify that, yeah, I understand that there are people that don't agree with me, but here's what I say in response to them. So that's really the whole point here. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with that transition word, and then you are going to put your counterclaim and your rebuttal into one sentence. So you don't need to go super detailed with your counterclaim like I did. So if you remember back to the You versus Lizzie Borden slideshow, I gave you the defense's argument and the prosecution's argument. You don't have to say that in this part. All you have to do is identify that there are people that think that she's innocent or guilty, whatever the opposite of your claim is. So, for example, you could do something like, in contrast, some people believe Lizzie Borden is innocent of killing the Bordens because XYZ. You don't even have to include the reason why they think that. You can just leave it at, in contrast, some people believe that Lizzie is innocent. But here's why they're wrong. You don't have to be super specific in this first sentence. You can leave it on, however, this is untrue. You can leave it at that. So literally you could do, and I'm going to type in this speaker notes right here, since you can't see me. Well, not that would matter, but something I would do is, in contrast, some people believe that Lizzie is innocent of the crimes, but this is untrue. And you can leave it at that. You can leave it at wrong. You could say wrong instead of untrue. You could say not guilty. You could say didn't commit the crimes. You can really take some liberties here and really make it your own in this. In fact, that's what I want you to do. If you were to give me this sentence that I just typed out for you as your topic sentence, I would be like, that's not really your topic sentence, that's mine. Okay, so you need to take this and you need to make it into your own topic sentence, okay? Also, think about conjunctive adverbs. You don't have to use but. But is a coordinating conjunction. It works great for our purpose here. But you could say, however, You could say but, you could say therefore. There's a lot of different words that you can use here, but you want to make sure that it flows nicely together. Okay, so pause the, oh, let me show you my example first. So my example was, additionally, some people think that, there's another good one, think that Princess Diana was killed secretly by MI6, but, there's my but statement, I used a coordinating conjunction, but the autopsy and footage from the crash show no proof of that. Okay, I got kind of specific, and I'm going to elaborate in my further sentences about that, but you could, like I said, leave it at just, but that is wrong, but that is incorrect, but that is untrue. However you want to say it, you can do that. So pause this video. When you're ready, come back, push play, and we'll write the next row. All right, now we're ready to write our evidence. So our evidence is going to disprove the counterclaim. And I'm using the word evidence pretty loosely here, okay? I'm using it pretty loosely. I'm giving you some liberty here and some wiggle room as far as what we're calling evidence. None of us were there. None of us. We don't even have the official police report because it was burned in a fire. That's a story for another time. But we don't have the original police report. We don't have any of those like hard concrete evidence pieces that we could use here to disprove. What I want you to do for the evidence is I want you to really put in here why. Now, I'm going to kind of go off two different angles here. I only want you listening to this part if you are for the fact that she is innocent. Okay, if you say that Lizzie is innocent, you need to put in here what evidence shows that there were other people in the house. Okay, because that's the prosecution's argument. The prosecution says, hey, there was nobody else in the house that could have done it. You need to tell me who was in the house, and you need to give it a citation because, again, we kind of talked about this yesterday, but common knowledge. Now, if you are saying that she is guilty, which is most of you, if you are saying that she is guilty, what you need to do is you need to identify a piece of evidence or something that you read about that shows that her relationship was not good with her parents. Now, one little caveat to that. Do not talk about her dad killing her pigeons, okay? Unless you haven't mentioned it before. If you used in your previous paragraph, her dad killed her pigeons, don't say it again, okay? We get it. She's angry about the dead pigeons. We understand. Don't use it again. Use something different. You could talk about how she called Miss Abby Borden, Mrs. Borden. She didn't call her mom. You could talk about how she openly talked bad about her parents. You could talk about her issues with his money, things like that. But I want you to keep it small. I want you to keep it to one sentence where you're not elaborating yet, because that's going to be the next part. The next part is where you explain why is there significance with her calling calling Abby Borden Mrs. Borden. Why? That's going to come later. For this, I just want you to put the evidence piece, okay? So here's my example. In the same article, and I'm using actual evidence, so keep that in mind. Yours is going to be in your own words. You're still going to put a citation, but yours is going to be in your own words. In the same article, the author says there is still no evidence from video footage on the okay? So it's going to look a little bit different because yours isn't going to be in quotation marks because it's not going to be a direct quote. However, you will still have a citation, okay? So, elaboration. This is where you identify how does that, like I said before, let's use the example of she called Abby Borden, instead of mom, she called her Mrs. Borden, okay? Why would that be disrespectful? Why could that be viewed as she didn't like her? If you said that Lizzie is innocent, why does Bridget also being in the house show that she may or may not have been the only one able to kill the Bordens? Okay, how does that play into it? This is where you're really going to explain it. And I said, how is it disproving the viewpoint, or what's the solution or the counterexample? So if you think about it like we did when we did conflicting viewpoints, a lot of those responses had solutions or things like that. You're really looking for either examples like she wasn't the only one in the house, Bridget was there too, or you're looking at examples of, she tried to buy, or not tried to buy, she openly talked bad with people about Mr. and Mrs. Borden. How does that show that she didn't really have a good relationship with them? How does that disprove that other side? And I use this reference when we talked about conflicting viewpoints, but think of it like a picket line. Okay, you're on one side and you're holding up a sign that says, Lizzie is guilty, Lizzie is guilty. The other side of the street is holding up signs that say, free Lizzie, she's innocent. Well, she wasn't ever convicted, but Lizzie is innocent. Okay, what are you gonna say to those people? Because the people on the other side of the picket line, they're going to say things to you. They're going to be like, what about this? What about this? What about this? How are you going to respond to them? And that's really what this whole paragraph is about. This whole paragraph is about your response to the other side. Okay? So, again, I don't know if I said it for the evidence, but pause the video as needed so that you can make sure that you have this done. This one only has 3 rows. This one has the row for the topic sentence, the row for the evidence number 1, and the row for the elaboration. And remember, evidence, I use that term loosely, but something that happened from the podcast or from that extra evidence list. So that is what you're doing today. That is your whole paragraph. I want you to think about, after you've written the topic sentence, the evidence, the elaboration, I want you to think about it as if you are on the trial that I am currently sitting through. Okay? Think about it that way. You're fighting for one side. You're trying to convince a jury like me. You're trying to convince me that either Lizzie's guilty or innocent. Reread what you've got so far and be like, is this strong? Is this something that other people are going to believe? Because that's your whole goal. Your whole goal is to argue that either she's guilty or she's innocent. Okay, so if you read through it and you're like, yeah, like this seems really passionate, this seems like it's got a bunch of good information, then you're probably good. But if you're reading it, you're like, that doesn't really have very good evidence, you may want to go back, and you don't necessarily have to watch or listen to the podcast again, but you can pull up those transcripts, you can pull up that extra evidence and see if you can find evidence that's stronger than what you currently have, and see if you can argue it more. Okay, so after you're done with that, if you have not turned in the You versus Lizzie, that needs to be your first priority because that's 20 points. You need to get it done and get it turned in. If you are finished with that, you can work on your book activity. It's due May 18th, even given this little hiatus that we're having here, that we're experiencing. It's still going to be due on May 18th. So you can turn those into the tray on the wall, and I will, be sure and grade them and submit them into, what do we use? into Tyler SIS. But that is still going to be due on May 18th. Okay, so make sure that you're working on things. Make sure you're being respectful. Make sure you're being safe. Make sure you are being a good and kind human. And I will see you on Monday.